The morning sun streamed down onto the golden beaches of the Gold Coast, searing the horizon with an almost hypnotic glow. The sea roared calmly, and the salty wind carried the scent of freedom and danger. Surfers battled for waves like modern-day gladiators, and tourists laughed, oblivious to what truly lurked beneath that strip of paradise. The invisible empire of a man everyone feared, but no one could touch. Aiden Cruz. His name echoed in investigations across 3 continents. The son of a former Mexican cartel father and an Australian diplomat, Aiden was a legally clean ghost, owning resorts, casinos, and export companies. But behind the veneer of luxury, his true business was the largest cocaine trafficking operation in the Southern Hemisphere. Intelligent, unpredictable, and charismatic, Aiden played with danger, like someone dancing on a tightrope over fire. And until then, he had never fallen. But the CIA wanted to change that. And that's when Isabella Monroe entered history. Tall, tanned, her body honed by years of tactical training and beach marathons. Isabella looked like a mirage emerging from the sea. Her golden hair reflected the Australian sun, and her green eyes held the precision of a sniper. She wasn't just a cop, she was a hunter, and Aiden Cruz was her prey. But no mission is simple when the target knows how to play. The Federal Force helicopter was flying over the coast when Isabella adjusted her headset. The commander's voice sounded metallic. "Agent Monroe, the target landed at his private marina 20 minutes ago. No visible security. It appears you're alone." "Alone?" She arched an eyebrow. "Aiden Cruz is never alone. That's what we have so far. Do you want to cancel the recognition?" Isabella looked out at the sea, the sun cutting across the surface like a golden blade. "Negative. I want to see what he does when he thinks we're not looking." The helicopter spun around. Below, Aiden's white yacht sparkled like a floating diamond. He was there, open shirt, sunglasses, and an easy smile, surrounded by 2 women and a waiter with champagne. The loud music and laughter masked the fact that this man had already sent over 50 people to their graves. "He's fast," Isabella murmured, peering through the binoculars. "And he knows how to hide his dirt." She turned off the radio and descended onto the helipad of the neighboring resort, where she was staying as an American tourist. She grabbed her surfboard, leaning against the wall, adjusted her wetsuit, and took a deep breath. If she were going to approach him, it would be the way he loved most, by sea. Aiden noticed her presence before she even reached his board. "Surprising," he commented, taking off his sunglasses. "The water just got more interesting." Isabella smiled slightly as if casting a hook. "I thought the waves here were just for amateurs." "It depends on who's riding." He held out his hand. "Aiden Cruz." She pretended to hesitate, but then she squeezed. "Bella, just Bella." The touch was quick, but electric. His eyes traveled over her body without disguise, not with vulgarity, but with the confidence of someone who always wins. She walked away, stepping onto the board. "Do you surf well, Bella?" he asked. "Well enough that I don't drown trying to impress." "Then you're already better than half the men I know." The waves swept them under, and for a few minutes, all that existed was the sound of the sea. Aiden watched her with a small smile. She studied him, taking in every detail. The thin scar on his chin, the expensive watch, the mixed accent. It would all be useful in the report, but when he got closer, his gaze dismantled her insides. "You know what's funny?" he said, leaning his board against hers. "I've never seen you around here, and I know all the interesting faces on the Gold Coast. Maybe I'm just a tourist. Tourists don't have hunter's eyes." She looked back at him firmly. "And you have the eyes of a man who thinks he's untouchable." He laughed. "A touch of ice in the middle of the sun. I like that." 2 weeks later, Isabella had a whole file on him. Undercover transactions, private flights, and an impenetrable security network. But the problem lay elsewhere. Aiden Cruz seemed to have become an addiction. He always showed up, in the same bars, at the same events, in the same places where she happened to be undercover. And most dangerous of all, he seemed to know exactly who she was, and yet he wouldn't move away. That night, the sky was violet over the sea. The bar coral moon pulsated with jazz and amber lights. Isabella entered in a short black dress and a cold gaze. Aiden was already at the bar, swirling his glass of whiskey. "Look at that, the mysterious tourist," he said without turning his head. "I was starting to think you were a dream." She sat down next to him. "And you look like someone who collects nightmares." He turned his face away. "Only the good ones." The waiter brought her a glass. Isabella refused. "I don't drink with strangers." "Then you're safe with me. I'm an open book." She stared at him in disbelief. And even? Yes, but in Spanish, he said, laughing. Do you want me to translate for you? The laughter escaped her unintentionally, and for a moment, the duty seemed small in the face of that smile. Later in the hotel room, Isabella recorded the audio report. Aiden Cruz. Target observed in direct interaction. Controlled but provocative behavior. There is evidence that he suspects my true identity. Maintain constant surveillance. Avoid emotional involvement. She paused. The reflection in the mirror showed something that didn't match his professional voice. A smile. She deleted the recording. The next day, Aiden stood at the edge of the pier, wearing light-colored pants and an open white shirt. He looked like he'd stepped out of a perfume commercial, and at the same time, a criminal case. When he saw her, he waved, a glass of juice and a disarming charm. Don't you have a job? She asked, crossing her arms. I do. Running businesses. Some are cooler than others. Really? And which one is this time? Tourism, export, entertainment. And drugs? She asked in a calm but direct tone. His smile faltered. Then he came back. You're bold. I like that. I'm not kidding. Neither do I. He took a step forward. You know what the problem is? You're the kind of woman who thinks she can trap me. But deep down, you want to understand me. She looked away. You're a criminal, and you're an agent. He smiled, leaning his face close to hers. I think we're even. She pushed him away, irritated. Stay away from me, Aiden. It's too late for that, my mermaid. The way he said, my mermaid, made her heart skip a beat. That night the sea was rough, and so was Isabella. She hadn't slept in 2 days. The agency's report indicated that Aiden would make a delivery to Currumbin Beach at 3 in the morning. It would be the perfect opportunity to capture him. She set up the ambush with 2 local agents hidden among the containers. The sound of the waves drowned out everything. At 3:07 a.m., his boat appeared, silent. Lights off. Aiden's silhouette appeared at the bow, like a king in his forbidden kingdom. Isabella aimed the gun's laser. One accurate shot would bring him down. The case would be closed. But then, he lifted his face. And even from 30 meters away, he knew she was there. His voice echoed through the wind. Are you really going to pull the trigger, Bella? She froze. He raised his hands, smiling. If you want to arrest me, come and do it properly. The tone was provocative, almost complicit. Or would you rather keep playing cops and robbers? She hesitated for a second, and the boat sped off, disappearing into the waves. Damn it, he shouted, kicking the sand. On the radio, the partner's voice sounded distressed. Agent Monroe, the target has escaped. Do you want us to activate the helicopter? She closed her eyes, anger and adrenaline mixing. Negative, he won't get very far. But deep down, she knew she had let it slip on purpose. 2 days later, the newspaper reported, Mexican businessman Aiden Cruz donates millions to flood victims in northern Australia. The photo showed his smile, impeccable, and next to it, a note, philanthropist and adventurer, loved by all. Isabella crumpled the newspaper tightly. He was publicly mocking her. Hours later, when she entered the hotel room, an envelope was under the door. Inside, a single handwritten sentence. If you want to find me, come to the sea. I promise not to run away this time. Signed, A. The sky was tinged orange when she reached the beach. Aiden was sitting on the sand, barefoot, guitar on his lap, strumming a calm melody. You should be in jail, she said, coming closer. And you should be sleeping. He smiled. We're both wrong, it seems. She stopped a few steps away from him. Why did you call me here? Because I'm tired of you pretending you don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. He chuckled softly. Then why did you come? Silence. Just the sound of the waves. Because I need to finish this, she replied. Finish what? He stood up slowly. The mission or the lie? She tried to keep her gaze steady, but he was already too close. The heat of his body, the smell of salt and smoke, the light touch as he brushed away a strand of her hair. You know what's funny? He murmured. I could have you killed. I could end this story now. But every time you look at me with those lioness eyes, all I can think about is kissing you. She grabbed his wrist, anger and desire mingling. You're crazy, and you're the reason why. He smiled. Sounds fair. And before she could react, his lips were on hers. It was a short, violent, forbidden kiss. And when they walked away, they both knew something had changed. Back at the hotel, Isabella locked herself in the bathroom. She washed her face, but the feeling wouldn't go away. That mission had just crossed a line. The phone rang. She answered, her voice strained. Monroe. On the other side, the division chief. Agent, congratulations. We've secured authorization for an international operation. We'll officially transfer you to the CIA base in Sydney. Sydney? Yes. And you will continue to be responsible for Aiden Cruz. We need him to trust you. She leaned against the sink. Trust me. We want to reach the main supplier. And to do that, we need you to infiltrate completely. The silence lasted for long seconds. Then Isabella replied, Understood, sir. 3 weeks later, she landed in Sydney. The wind was colder, but the heat inside her felt even more dangerous. Aiden was waiting for her at the pier in a red convertible. Wearing a light suit and a mocking smile, he waved. Bella, have you finally decided to move to paradise? She tossed her suitcase into the back seat, unsmiling. I came to finish what I started. Great. He opened the door for her. Then come in. The game will get more interesting. The car sped along the coastal road, the sea beside it reflecting the evening sun. She looked at him sideways, trying to understand what was really in that man. At every turn, he felt he was getting closer to hell, and, paradoxically, to something he had never had, freedom. And so began the most dangerous game of Isabella Monroe's life, a game of seduction, power, and bullets, where love was just another trap. But on that road, between the sea and the fire, she no longer knew who was chasing whom. Sydney had a peculiar way of hiding its monsters. Amidst the glitter of skyscrapers and the scent of marinas, Aiden Cruz's business flowed like the sea, calm on the surface, violent in the depths. His car was crossing the harbor bridge when Isabella realized something. Aiden wasn't looking at the traffic. He was looking at her. You know what's funny? He began with that lazy tone that sounded like an invitation. The CIA sends you to Australia to capture me, but you accept a ride with me. She looked away to the sea. It's strategy. Oh, sure, he laughed. The same strategy that makes you look at my chest when you think I'm not looking. She sighed, irritated. You have an insufferable habit of thinking you're irresistible, only when I'm right. Silence fell, but the air was thick. The wind hit her face, mixing salt and perfume, and Aiden sped up as if to see how far she could go. Where are we going? Isabella asked. Home, he pointed ahead, or to the battlefield, depending on what you want to call it. The house was a white glass and wood mansion perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. The sound of the waves crashing against the rocks seemed part of the architecture. It was the kind of place few could afford, and many wanted to destroy. Did you like it? He asked, taking off his glasses. They say the sea here is so beautiful that even sinners kneel. Will you kneel, Aiden? He smiled slowly. Only when it's worth it. The interior of the house was a temple of understated luxury. Modern paintings, expensive wines, windows open to the endless blue. Isabella walked slowly, pretending to observe the decor, while mapping out every exit, every camera, every possible escape route. You look tense, he commented, pouring 2 glasses of wine. Are you waiting for me to pull out a gun? It wouldn't be a surprise. Not even for me. He laughed, handing over the cup. Relax, my mermaid. Today I don't intend to kill you. Should that reassure me? It should turn you on. She snorted, but the smile escaped before she could stop it. Aiden approached, voice low. You know what drives me crazy about you, Bella? It's that even with a gun in your purse and an arrest warrant in your pocket, you still look at me like you want something you shouldn't. She looked at him steadily. And you know what drives me crazy about you? It's that even with all the crimes under your belt, you still think you can win any woman over with that smile. Maybe I only need one. Their eyes met, and time seemed to stop. Isabella took a deep breath, trying to maintain control, but the sea outside roared, and inside her the same sound echoed. The next morning, she woke to the sound of distant helicopters. The clock read 6 a.m. The sun streamed through the glass and gilded Aiden's body lying beside him, half covered by the blanket. Damn, he thought. I had crossed the line. Again. She got up silently, put on her blouse, and went straight to the bathroom. She turned on the communicator on the necklace disguised as a pendant. This is Monroe. I'm in. He trusts me. The base agent's voice sounded static. Great. We need you to locate the main servers and the contact from Guadalajara. He's the supplier. If we can get his name, we can take everything down. Understood. She looked in the mirror. But I warn you, this will be risky. Monroe, the voice grew quieter. Can you keep a cool head? She hesitated. I always did. But as soon as he hung up, he saw Aiden's reflection in the door. Talking to yourself? he asked, leaning against the frame. I often practice mental reports. Reports? He arched an eyebrow. That sounds so official. She turned. Are you always this paranoid? Only when the most beautiful woman I've ever seen appears out of nowhere, knows too much, and sleeps in my bed. He came closer. You're a mystery, Bella, but I promise I'll find out who you are. She smiled, hiding her fear. Good luck trying. Over the next few days, Isabella completely infiltrated Aiden's world. He took her to private parties, dinners with businessmen, and short trips on private jets. She pretended to be his new press secretary, and no one dared question her. Each night the disguise became more fragile. He teased her all the time, testing limits. And between missions, she began to see something different. Aiden was cruel, but also curious. Violent, but generous to those he loved. A man torn between two worlds, crime and the sea. And she was drowning in this ocean. On a hot afternoon, Aiden led her to a secluded warehouse where shipments were being prepared. Isabella maintained a cool demeanor, but her eyes registered everything. This is where the magic happens, he said with a dangerous smile. Magic is a nice name for drug trafficking. I prefer to call it international trade. She walked between the boxes. And what happens to those who try to report you? It depends. If it's the enemy, he dies. If it's you, he pulled her by the waist. You get a kiss first. She pushed him away, heart racing. You're playing with fire. And you are the fire. His look was a confession and a sentence. At night, in the improvised hiding place, Isabella sent the coordinates of the shed. But before he finished, a notification lit up the tablet. Location tracked. She turned pale. A second later, the glass exploded. Armed men burst into the room. Isabella rolled back, pulling out her pistol. 3 shots, 2 bodies on the ground. But the third man came forward with a knife, and she knocked him down with a well-aimed kick. When the dust settled, Aiden was at the door, his face a mixture of anger and surprise. So it was true. She raised her gun. Aiden, listen to me. CIA? Police? What's your badge, Bella? I didn't come to kill you. I came to stop you. He gave a bitter laugh. Big difference. She swallowed hard. You don't understand. There are people above you. I can get you out of this. You think someone like me wants to be saved? He took a step forward. I was born condemned, my mermaid. She gripped the trigger tightly, but her voice cracked. Don't make me do this. He looked straight into her eyes. Then shoot. She didn't shoot. And in that second, Aiden understood everything. Hours later, she woke up tied up. The room was dark, the distant sound of waves echoing. Aiden sat in front, his expression cold. You should have killed me when you had the chance. And you should have run away when I let you. He was silent for a moment, then ran his hands through his hair nervously. I should hate you, Bella, but I hate the idea of losing you even more. She looked at him. Are you going to kill me, is that it? I haven't decided yet. He stood up. You betrayed me, but you also protected me. You saved my life in that ambush at the marina. I should either thank you or bury you. She took a deep breath. You're a killer, Aiden. Everything you touch turns to blood. And you're a vigilante with hands too clean to understand. He leaned closer. Deep down, we're both addicted to the same thing. Control. He cut the ropes from her wrist. You're free. Go away. She looked at him suspiciously. Why? Because if I kill you now, I will never sleep in peace again. He turned his back and left. But what he didn't see was her look, torn between relief and pain. Isabella escaped that night, fleeing through the forest until she reached the road. He turned on the team radio. This is Monroe, situation compromised, I need extraction. But the answer was silence. Then, a snap, and a voice she didn't recognize. Agent Monroe is no more. Her blood ran cold. The next day, the headlines exploded. Explosion at coastal warehouse destroys cargo valued at $200 million. And below, prime suspect, Isabella Monroe, former CIA agent. She stared at the newspaper, trembling. They had turned the tables on her. The government itself had discarded it. 3 days later, hiding in an abandoned cabin near the beach, Isabella heard footsteps. She grabbed her gun, ready to shoot. Maz, Era Aiden. Looks like we're both ghosts now, he said with a tired smile. Someone's cleaning the board. She pointed the gun. Stay where you are. Relax. He held up his hands. If I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't bring wine. Are you laughing at my misfortune? No. I'm laughing because fate is a sadist. They sent you to destroy me, And now it's your own people who want you dead. She slowly lowered the gun. What do you want from me? I want to know who did this, and I need your help to find out. Do you think I'll trust you? You already trusted me. He approached, holding out the bottle. And you still do, even though you hate to admit it. She stared at him for long seconds. Then she sighed. A toast, then. To the traitors. To the survivors. He corrected. The wine was strong, bitter, almost warm. And that night the fire returned. As the rain fell outside, Aiden and Isabella reviewed documents, connections, and trails. They discovered a name, Victor Delgado, the cartel's financial arm, and a double informant for the CIA. He had sold out Aiden and Isabella at the same time, granting them immunity in exchange for handing them over. So that's it, Aiden said, looking at the photos. The rat sold the whole ship. Wait, and now the government wants me dead to erase the evidence. Welcome to my world. She laughed wearily. I can't believe I'm working with you. It's only temporary. He winked. Unless you want to extend the contract. She shook her head. You're impossible, and you're irresistible when you're angry. He came closer, and the touch was inevitable. But this time, there was no hesitation. Anger turned into desire. Desire turned into surrender. What started as a war turned into a fire, and for a few hours, the world ceased to exist. The next morning, Aiden lit a cigarette and looked out to sea. Do you know what I hate most about freedom? He asked. That it's never free. Isabella wrapped herself in the blanket, still drowsy. And what do you intend to do now? Finish Delgado. He turned his face away. And maybe start over. Start over? She smiled in disbelief. A reformed drug dealer? A tired man? He stood looking at her. You think I don't feel guilty, Bella? She was silent. I was born into violence. I grew up believing that power was everything. But when I look at you, he hesitated. It seems like I could be something else. She looked away. Careful, Aiden. The right words come easily when the bed is still warm. He smiled slightly. And yet, you want to believe them. That afternoon, a new plan was born. Capture Delgado before he left the country. The operation would be risky and illegal, but it was the only chance to clear both of their names. Isabella programmed the devices, synchronized the GPS, and donned the tactical vest. If this goes wrong, we're dead. We've already died once. Aiden loaded the gun. Now it's just the encore. The black car drove through the roads of Sydney to an old industrial warehouse. Inside, Delgado loaded boxes of money. Aiden and Isabella stormed in together, like fire and storm. The shooting started before the door even fell. Aiden took down 2 security guards. Isabella covered the flank. The noise was deafening. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Aiden, she yelled, watch out! A grenade rolled to his feet. She ran over, pushed him to the ground, and the explosion shook the shed. Smoke, gunshots, and then silence. When the dust settled, Delgado was trying to escape through the back. Isabella took aim and fired. The projectile hit his shoulder, knocking him down. Aiden approached, gun in hand. Look who decided to sell the boss. Delgado spat blood. You're finished, Cruz. They're coming for you. Who are they? Asked Isabella. Delgado smiled, bloodied. The CIA, the government. You're just pawns. Before they could react, the sound of helicopters filled the air. Light swept across the shed. Damn it, Aiden yelled. They've tracked us. He pulled Isabella by the hand. Come with me. They ran to the side exit, under a hail of bullets. Isabella stumbled, but he caught her. The two got into a stolen car speeding down the coastal road. Behind the sirens and the echo of hell. Hours later, hidden on a secluded cliff, the two watched the distant lights of the city. We are now officially enemies of the world? She murmured. It's not so bad when you have company. He looked at her. And now, Agent Monroe, what are we going to do? She looked at the horizon, where the sea met the sky. Now, we survive. The wind blew hard, lifting her hair. Aiden pulled her close. The kiss was silent, but definitive. Between duty and sin, she chose the sea, and the sea never forgives. Dawn burned the coast like a copper blade as Isabella and Aiden left the cliff. The sea seemed a patient beast, chewing the sand in hypnotic cycles, while the city, far behind, reorganized for an official hunt. They were the target. Aiden drove with his knuckles white on the steering wheel. There was dried blood on his sleeve. Delgado's, a past that stubbornly refused to die. Isabella kept her eyes on the rearview mirror, counting imaginary sirens, knowing that this postcard landscape held discreet helicopters, observation towers, and radios whispering their names like an inverted prayer. "We need to get out of town," she said. "No roads, no signs, no slips." "See," Aiden replied without looking away. "If the whole world is concrete, the way out is always by water." He put the car in gear and cut down a winding road that dropped off to a private marina, nestled between white cliffs and waters ranging from turquoise to deep blue. The pier was still yawning with fishermen and late-arriving tourists. Nothing to betray two living targets pushing beyond the limits of human adrenaline. Aiden's boat, a 40-foot black hull with silent engines, slept like a predator under canvas. Beside it, an inflatable rib for short escapes. Isabella pulled back the canvas, tested cables, and opened the holds. Water, diving spears, tanks, emergency backpacks, ammunition, encrypted radio kits, and a metal case the size of a violin case. "What is this?" she asked. Aiden hesitated for a microsecond. "My end, or our salvation." The briefcase had 3 biometric locks. Isabella recognized the pattern at first sight. A portable cold storage safe, used for keys and backups, enough to buy a small country or destroy a large career. Aiden touched it with his thumb and opened it. Inside, a ceramic-coated drive. Beside it, handwritten notes, passports that recounted parallel lives, and photos. A vessel at sea with its logo partially painted over, a poorly hidden Mexican flag, and above all, what mattered most, a transfer receipt to an NGO in Oceania, but with the sender masked by an Australian logistics company with public contracts. This company, Isabella looked up, government supplier, and much more than that. They launder Delgado's money, and Delgado reports the entire flow to someone who appears nowhere, someone who only exists in off-topic meetings and gala invitations. Name, Aiden breathed, staring out at the sea. Grant Whitmore. The name felt like an anchor piercing calm water. Isabella felt its weight, recognized its gravity. Whitmore was a local philanthropist, a cover face, a patron of the arts and marinas, a host to politicians and investors, young for the size of his shadow, too clean. "Are you sure? I have the pattern, the roots, the indirect signatures. This drive has it all, but the absolute proof." He pointed to the horizon. "It's stored in the Whitsundays, a submerged warehouse among reefs. It's not a metaphor. It's literally an underwater bunker." Isabella bit her lip, the salty wind shattering her resolve. The Whitsundays, an archipelago that looked like propaganda for gods, with translucent waters, moon-white sands, turtles, and sailboats, and apparently the secret that connected the Mexican cartel to the political heart of the Australian coast. "Then let's go get it." Easy to say, hard to get out alive. "We never took the easy way out, Aiden." He smirked, tossing the rope onto the deck. "That's why I want you with me." The hull sliced through the blue mirror as if the sea were silk. Speed dropped until the radar blade confirmed clear, then a sprint that pinned them both to the bank. The wind blew Isabella's hair into a golden flag. For a moment, there was only water, light, and the illusion that escape was possible. The radio filled with static, a voice, broken, Eco Viper, bearing 27, target moving along the coast. Isabella and Aiden exchanged a look. It wasn't civilian radio. It wasn't fishermen. It was the invisible hunt. "No linear route," she said. "Zigzag. False approach to Rottnest, then climb like we're going to Townsville. Cut off before Airlie. Have you ever flown contraband?" "I've had to run away from people who do that." Aiden laughed genuinely. "You married me without realizing it. I can still divorce you on the high seas. Promise?" The boat flew. Hours later, the coast opened up into turquoise natural pools, wind-patterned sands and mangroves where the sun cast long shadows. The Whitsundays shone as if someone had poured syrup over an archipelago. Sailboats moored like tired birds. Couples snapped photos that would never show the shots history had in store for this piece of paradise. "The bunker is to the east," Aiden said, pulling up next to a reef that looked like a stone necklace. 30 meters, narrow tunnel, pressure-sealed door. It was designed by an engineer who swore the sea was the best lock in the world. He forgot that greed learns to dive. "Wait, and how do we open it?" Aiden lifted the case containing 2 professional diving masks, regulators, flashlights, 2 hand thrusters, and tiny magnetic charges. "You call this a skeleton key?" Isabella raised an eyebrow. "I call it underwater poetry." They descended like shadows. The water grew cold, the sound of the world melting away until only their own beating heart remained. The reef opened into a dark blue corridor. Isabella swam with the precise movements of someone who has learned to converse with the sea. The flashlight's beam cut through the darkness, revealing the dark steel of the door, covered in translucent algae. There was a biometric lock designed for human skin, which doesn't usually descend 30 meters with such ease. Aiden placed the magnetic charge in a blind spot next to the lock, setting the timer to 30 seconds. They pressed against the coral wall, holding the air that the cylinder released. The vibration of the explosion was a distant thunder muffled by miles of water. The door gave way. The second dent came with the mechanical lever. The compartment opened like the mouth of an old animal. Inside were dry capsules, vacuum-sealed packages, and boxes of sealed chips. Isabella opened one, her respirator wheezing, and saw what she needed. Contracts, memos, a chain of emails between Whitmore logistics executives and encrypted accounts in Mexico. Payments disguised as maritime consulting, container numbers, fake ballast, and GPS routing information. And, in a final compartment, a black folder bearing the discreet emblem of a government committee. Isabella opened it right then and there, unable to wait. Letters of intent signed by advisors reporting to ministers. The alignment of public-private partnerships, with clauses that created perfect legal shadows for humanitarian ships to sail without full inspection. She raised the flashlight, her eyes burning behind her mask. The proof was there, naked, cold, and cruel, like the bottom of the sea. The shadow passed over. A swimmer in black cut the beam. Then another, then four. Aiden pulled Isabella by the wrist and pointed toward the exit. She shook her head, pointing to the compartment. She needed to collect 2 more chips. He gritted his teeth and returned with her. In 10 seconds, they had the units in the waterproof bag. They emerged into the narrow corridor. The first enemy thrust a harpoon into Aiden's shoulder. Isabella spun around, the blade in her calf slicing through the water and rubber like a pattern. The second enemy came from above. Aiden thrust the weight of the ocean into it, slamming it against the rock, bubbles and blood rising like inverted confetti. They surfaced, gasping for breath, their lungs burning, their hands tightly clutching their water bags. On deck, 2 men waited for them, tactical masks, suppressed pistols. Isabella blocked the first with the dive thruster, a short punch to the windpipe. Aiden turned the winch's ratchet and just as fluidly brought the second down using his own leg as leverage. 3 seconds. Silence. Only the sea, as always, acting as witness. "They can swim too," Isabella said, spitting out water. "And shoot," Aiden finished, looking at the horizon. The helicopter came in from the east, the sun in its favor, the Coast Guard logo, and a detail that gave it all away. The flight pattern was military, and the response time was too good to be a coincidence. "It's not the Coast Guard," Isabella said. "It's Whitmore in a borrowed uniform." Aiden placed the watertight bag in the hold, locked it with cold storage, and pitched the hull forward. The helicopter responded by lowering, spitting bladed wind. A metallic voice shouted from a loudspeaker, "Stop engines! Vessel under inspection!" Aiden smiled humorlessly. "Inspect me in court." The first machine gun beam scraped the side like a nail on a door. Isabella jumped onto the inflatable rib, engaged the starter, and threw the small boat to the opposite side. 2 targets, 2 chances. The helicopter hesitated for a second. What to pursue? "Come with me," she shouted. "No!" Aiden engaged the autopilot of the larger hull, heading suicidally toward the mouth of a shallow canal where the helicopter wouldn't get a perfect angle. "I'll distract them. You take the evidence." "Aiden, I don't think. I do." He leaped onto the rib beside her at the last second, tearing away. The massive hull sped on its own, a ghost whale heading for the rocks. The helicopter settled on the breathing target. The shrapnel sliced through the water in silvery threads. "Beach," Isabella ordered. "Sand, people, cell phones. They don't shoot freely among tourists." That was the only sentence that saved them both in 15 minutes of hell. The rib cut toward a cove where a group of young people were emerging from a catamaran with fluorescent buoys and speakers playing pop music. The helicopter hovered, assessed the situation, and retreated 2 feet. That was all it took. Aiden released emergency smoke, created a curtain, threw the rib behind a sandbank, and the 2 disappeared into a narrow estuary where the water turned dark green and the mangrove branches traced fingers across the surface. As silence fell, Isabella felt her body vibrate like a guitar string. They had what they needed, and at the same time, they had been seen too much. "We need a stage," Aiden said, his eyes alight. We can't play shadows anymore. If Whitmore sends a helicopter, he also sends a narrative. We need to tell ours first. A stage, Isabella thought aloud. Public, civilian, elegantly noisy. Aiden noticed it the same instant she did. On a pier poster, flyers advertised the Oceano and Artes Gala Ball sponsored by whom? Whitmore Foundation, tomorrow. Sydney. Celebrities, ambassadors, ministers, journalists. A sea of ties and expensive dresses, and the nation's cameras are on. Are you thinking of crashing a billionaire's gala and accusing the host? He teased. Showing evidence on national television, she corrected. Live, with someone who still believes in ethics on camera. Do you know anyone? I knew her when Agent Monroe was still around. She took a deep breath. Hannah Lee, investigative reporter, never sold a story. Aiden nodded, as if accepting a 3-shot Russian roulette. Then we need clothes, invitations, credentials, and a strong prayer. And a distraction to get in. I can dance tango and lie looking into someone's eyes. Is that okay? Serve. They returned to Sydney the old map route. Mangroves, side canals, a secondary harbor where Aiden parked cars with clean plates. They learned to silence footsteps on tourist sidewalks. They arrived at Aiden's emergency safe in a building overlooking the bay. Formal passports, a tuxedo that looked tailored, because it was, a dress that looked tailored, because Aiden had a frightening intuition for guessing measurements and precipices, and 2 VIP invitations rescued from a pasture of dead identities. Isabella paused for a second in front of the mirror. Her charcoal dress fell like water, creating the curves of an athlete and a storm. Her golden hair was tied in a bun, her skin glowing with sunlight. She had the look of a woman who had already chosen her side, between the law that discarded her and the criminal who decided not to shoot, the side of truth. You look beautiful, Aiden said, unable to hide his usual shock whenever he saw Isabella outside the battlefield. And dangerous. Your face is dangerous, like someone who thinks they're going to have fun at a gala. I don't think so. I'm sure. Aiden, I know. He lowered his voice. I'll stand behind you. No silly heroics, no detours. She touched the end of his tie, as if in omen. Today, if anyone falls, it's me. Then I fall first, he replied seriously. The night dawned with a diamond skin over Sydney. The Ocean and Arts Museum rose columns of blue light, glass walls where holographic schools of fish danced like ghosts. Inside, dresses that cost an apartment clouded the air with expensive perfume, men with smiles more polished than their shoes, glasses with discreet bubbles, a stage where a string quartet pretended that music was its own religion. Whitmore emerged as a late prince, white suit, boutonniere, propaganda hair, a smile that knew how to pronounce every word except guilt. He greeted ministers with his right hand, while his left held the city by the throat. Isabella and Aiden passed through the checkpoint with the kind of ease only 2 very guilty people can manage. Security looked at their credentials, smiled back at the counterfeit money, and the night swallowed them both. Hannah Lee, Isabella whispered, sweeping the room. Hannah stood near the stage, microphone in hand, her hair tied back so that no strands would fall on the truth. Isabella walked toward her with firm steps. The reporter's eyes widened when she recognized her behind the makeup and new name. Oh my God, Isabella, you were dead, wanted, rewritten. Isabella held her forearm tightly. I need you, now. You are being hunted by the government. Then you're at risk just by looking at me, Isabella breathed. But the bigger risk is if we leave this as it is. Hannah looked from Isabella to Aiden, recognition slow and calculated. Did you bring proof? Aiden held up a chip card, small as sin and heavy as a sentence. Evidence. And your cruise, Hannah whispered, her voice almost broken. You should be arrested. I should be dead. He smiled briefly. We're all falling short. Hannah closed her eyes for a moment as if praying. When she opened them, the old news was there. Come on. I'm going to open the broadcast now, as a last-minute link. You'll go live. But you know this could end with us all in handcuffs, right? Handcuffs are more honest than a gala invitation, Isabella replied. The reporter nodded, discreetly signaling to the cameraman, who made a move to adjust the lighting without attracting too much attention. Within 2 minutes, they had a small corner near an installation of glass and water sculptures, enough protection to get started. The first step of the plan died before it was even born. 3 security guards emerged from the ground like a building breathing. Broad shoulders, in-ear headphones, eyes devoid of curiosity. One of them said, Ms. Lee, Mr. Whitmore wants a word before your special appearance. Another eyed Aiden as if checking out a weapons display case. The third parked in Isabella's outlying field, his voice low, his smile old school. "Do you have any additional credentials? We'll have a routine inspection." Aiden bit back the laughter that wanted to come. "Routine is when you don't suspect. This is something else." "Sir?" Isabella saw the fissure. They'd smelled it. Anyone who brings evidence against a host into his courtroom doesn't deserve luck. They deserve courage. She smiled as if to say, "I have both." "Do you really want to approach us in the hall?" she asked clearly. "With ministers watching, cameras, live reporters? Or would you rather pretend to be private security and politely send us to a room without the press?" The man swallowed hard and chose the manual option. "This way, please." Hannah bit her tongue, her eyes saying, "Get angry." The cameraman, a wingless angel, turned on the remote and let it roll. The red light blinked discreetly. No one saw it. Someone always sees it. That's enough. They led the three of them to a hallway lined with aquariums that mimicked reefs. The sound of water, laughter muffled by thick walls. The door to the meeting room closed with a click that felt too easy. Aiden reached into his pocket, ready to live as he always had, a millimeter ahead of the other's mistake. Whitmore was in there. No white suit, black shirt, rolled up sleeves, the smile of a resting ambassador, revealing steel teeth. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen." His tone cut through glass. "What an indecent pleasure to see our special guest, the late Agent Monroe." Isabella held her spine, her gaze, all that remained. "Do you have stage fright, Whitmore?" "I am the stage." He inclined his head gently. "And you came with a supporting actor who thinks he's the lead. Mr. Cruz, tonight is not about your cartel. It's about my country." "Your country?" Aiden took a step. "You mean your pocket." The security guards moved forward a beat. Whitmore held up two fingers and the world obeyed. "I admire people who know the price of everything," he said, almost tenderly. "But you've forgotten that to bring down a man like me, it takes more than courage and proof. It takes narrative." He smiled. "And I've already written mine." The room's screens lit up with archival footage. Isabella crossing a warehouse amid gunfire, a thermal camera, an official helicopter over the Whitsundays, an inflatable rib cutting through protected waters, a stamp, domestic terrorists, an anchor's voice, traitorous ex-agent and fugitive cartel boss threaten charity event. The narrative was ready. They were the villains in someone else's movie. Isabella didn't look away. "You speak with the voice of someone who believes the beauty of the coast was meant to cover corpses, but the water always gives back. The water returns shells, not bodies. I'll take care of the bodies." Whitmore smiled so softly it hurt. "I can kill them here. I can even return their bodies to the sea with a guided tour. But you see, I have a weakness for spectacles, so I'll propose a deal." He approached Isabella with the calm of a well-born psychopath. "You hand over the drive. You walk with me on stage, smile, and confirm that you're an unstable former agent who preyed on a patriotic entrepreneur. In 2 weeks, we rehabilitate you with a private security job in the Middle East. And you live. Your boyfriend." He tilted his chin at Aiden. "We quietly erase him. No scene. No long-lasting pain. I'm human." Aiden gave a short laugh. "You're a statistic. And you are a mistake I will correct." Isabella looked at Aiden as if gazing at the edge of a cliff. He returned her gaze, unasked, uncommanded. It was a pact. It was then that she realized, loving someone like Aiden isn't loving a man. It's loving the precipice. "I have a counter-proposal," Isabella said, and the silence changed in temperature. "You're going to take me to the stage. You're going to smile like you always do. I'm going to call you a benefactor. And when the camera zooms in, I'll say your name. I'll tell you how you laundered every dollar with children's birthdays and coastal campaigns. I'll tell you the ships. I'll tell you the emails. I'll show you the chip. And I'll ask, live on air, for a minister to arrest me on stage, to arrest me under the light, because you already know how to arrest me in the dark." She took a step forward, staring into the abyss with what the abyss least understands. Calm. "And when I'm handcuffed, when you call me a traitor, there will be too many journalists wanting the file, and they will have it. Because by now, Whitmore, someone out there is already downloading it." The corner of the room breathed as if it had lungs. Hannah Lee, outside, had heard enough. The cameraman, anonymous and saintly, already had a signal. The red light had remained constant. The technological redundancy that saves democracies and ruins parties. Whitmore realized a second too late. His eyes changed color, and the security guards advanced. Aiden moved first, not on impulse, but for life. A gulp of air, a blow to the wrist of the man on his left, a lock on the elbow of the man on his right. Isabella grabbed what was hers, in the perfect space between order and chaos, the gun at the ankle of the tallest security guard. The world turned to metallic noise, muffled screams, the string quartet outside playing Vivaldi as if not even hell could interrupt them. "Light," Whitmore said into the radio. The room went blind for a second. Isabella felt the wall a step away and took 2 steps back, pulling Aiden with her. The glow faded and the night at the museum returned in layers. 2 security guards on the floor, one on his knees, the other clenching and unclenching his hand like a fish out of water. Whitmore's shirt was wrinkled for the first time in his life. The smile was gone, in its place a polite hatred. "It's over," he said, but it sounded more like a promise. "Not yet," a voice at the door replied. Hannah Lee walked in with 2 state troopers who didn't know who to aim at. She raised her badge, her hand steady, the camera behind her bright. "We're live. Mr. Whitmore, in the public interest, I ask that you answer a few questions about your foundation's contracts with companies linked to cargo declared humanitarian, and about photos linking your name to..." The shot came from behind Hannah. It wasn't meant to kill, it was meant to scatter. The sound rippled through the aquariums and made the glass sculptures tremble as if the sea, offended, had shrugged. Someone screamed. The agenda was violently snatched from the hand. Security activated panic mode. Internal doors locked. What had been a gala became a cage. Aiden pulled Isabella by the wrist and they ran backstage. Internal sirens mingled with screams, and the night fragmented into corridors of glass, water, and mirrors. The museum was a maze. "East emergency exit," Isabella said, memorizing the security map at a glance. "Cambridge over the main tank, down 2 levels. Fire door, technical garage. Were you born to run or to fight?" Aiden asked breathlessly. "To win." She squeezed his hand. The walkway above the large tank looked like a scene from a movie. Nurse sharks, schools of fish moving as if directed by a conductor, filtered water bluer than the ocean itself. In the glass, reflections of people running and falling. Aiden heard the crack first, glass giving way under the wrong weight in the wrong place. "Don't stop," he said. It was no use. One bullet hit the railing, another hit the knuckle. Isabella aimed and returned fire. 3 sharp, elegant, precise shots. 2 bodies fell, and the third understood that intelligence also hides in short shots. The walkway gave way an inch. The artificial sea creaked like steel. "Run, Bella!" They ran. Behind them, the glass complained with a loud crack. The water held its breath. The walkway opened wide enough to make poetry out of panic. Isabella leaped over the gap like someone leaping through childhood in one fell swoop. Aiden followed and felt the iron bar scrape against his suit. The world held. Barely. The fire door gave way with 2 kicks, and the badge was stolen. They descended 2 flights of stairs. The technical garage smelled of oil and leaks. A gray van with the museum logo slept, ready to steal children and adults from the fish racks. Aiden turned the key uncovered behind the sun visor. Isabella opened the dashboard and slipped the drive into a compartment no one would notice. The van purred. "What if they stop us on the ramp?" he asked. You smile. I lie. And luck does its part. The ramp swallowed the van and then vomited it onto the side street, where the chaos turned fancy cars into frightened animals. 3 blocks later, they were 2 more fugitives in the traffic of a city too beautiful to admit a wolf in its garden. They stopped only when the city became a neighborhood, and the neighborhood became wind, and the wind became a uniform road. They stopped at a less photographed beach where the sea does its ancient work of washing away feet and guilt that won't go away. "You were live," Aiden said, still a bit incredulous. "The camera saw it. The country saw it. You saw enough to doubt his sign." Isabella kicked off her heels and sank her feet into the sand. Now comes the dirty part, surviving the counterattack. Aiden ran his hand over his face, feeling the salt remind him that there were still incorruptible things on the planet. "He's going after Hannah." "I know." Isabella was already dialing a number from memory. "And we'll get there first." The phone answered on the 4th ring. Hannah's voice, urgent with the kind of fear that doesn't tremble, the fear that works. "I'm in a makeshift studio in the old neighborhood. They tried to surround me, but a sergeant embarrassed by his uniform pulled me out the back. I have 5 minutes. After that I can disappear." An address Hannah gave. It was close. Everything is close when danger speeds up the clock. The streets of the old neighborhood were lined with bars with faded neon signs, brick houses that had learned to survive fashion and gentrification. The makeshift studio was above a surfboard repair shop. They climbed the narrow stairs, the wood creaking with secrets. Hannah opened the door with her left hand, the microphone taped to her right. The cameraman had a bandage on his arm. There was dried blood on the floor and too much coffee on the table. "The file is uploading," she said without exchanging a kiss. "But they've already taken down 2 servers. I need redundancy, Isabella. You said it beautifully, but without the full package, tomorrow morning I'll just be another crazy person on the timeline." Aiden placed the ceramic chip on the table, next to a router that was beating like an electronic heart. "There's one key missing," he said, "the one for the final signature on the ballast. Without it, any lawyer will say you've connected dots that don't connect. It's on a flash drive in Whitmore's office safe, behind a painting of the coastline. The code, the coordinates of a beach where he pretends to grow trees. I know the password." He looked at Isabella. "But I can't go in there alone. I'm the wrong face for cameras looking for culprits." Isabella took a breath. Her gaze found the window, the night, the sound of the sea, young people laughing on the sidewalk, the world continuing its old trick of pretending there's no war. She turned her gaze to Aiden. "Then let's go. Now." "You guys are crazy," Hannah said with the exact sweetness of someone who's staking their career and their skin. "I won't be able to handle this upload without you for much longer." "Hold the clock for us," Isabella asked. "We'll bring the last piece." "What if I fall?" "You won't fall." Aiden handed Isabella's necklace, the communicator pendant, into Hannah's hands. "If anything goes wrong, use this. It's a scream I kept ready." Hannah nodded. Her eyes shone with fear and faith. The faith that changes little and saves everything. Whitmore's office was in a building with an indecent view of the bay. The concierge knew every expensive smile in town. Isabella entered through the garage with a pass that was like a magic trick. Aiden, for once in his life, remained inside the car, his eyes scanning shadows and possibilities. Cold sweat, fists clenched. The man who commands floating territories, pushing the limits of trusting another person inside the wolf's den. Isabella walked through marble and glass corridors, past a reception desk where a woman with a perfect bun was checking a list that already knew every name. She entered the elevator, pressed the top floor, and gave the camera her face as if offering a facade to her own destiny. When the doors opened, everything smelled of polished wood, leather, and winters. Whitmore's living room had an entire wall of ocean, black and white paintings of the coast from the 1950s, old photographs of fishermen, speedboats, the sea the city forgot it once didn't sell. Isabella went straight to the right painting, a coastline where trees dipped their feet into the sand. Coordinates in the corner. She touched the frame as if touching a wound. The mechanism gave way, slow, passionate. The safe winked its iron eye. She typed in the coordinates. The safe gave a humorless smile. Inside, the flash drive, alone as bait. She picked it up. The alarm fell silent like an animal listening to a hunter's boot. There was no siren, but there was the kind of silence that kills first. The light changed tone. The air grew heavier. "Aiden," she whispered into the microphone. "You're going to hate me." "What?" "I brought the storm." 4 men emerged from the side door, so synchronized they seemed like a single muscle. Isabella didn't hesitate. First a punch to the larynx. A second, a weapon from the shin to the wrist. A spin, a dry shot to the knee from the second. The third came with an electric shock. She felt the world flash internally, her body wanting to forget how to stand. She had half a second to decide whether to fall. She didn't. She jumped over the table, threw a chair at the 4th man, turned the gun on her own light and blew out the bulb, casting a shadow for 5 seconds. And she ran. Hallway, service stairs, 2 flights, a locked door. Her body decided for her, and she broke in. The elevator opened on the ground floor with 2 security guards too perplexed to be efficient. Isabella walked through the lobby with the flash drive clutched in her palm. Her heart was writing a message on her ribs. Lives. Aiden's van appeared like an ugly, yet kind animal. She jumped in. The engine responded. The corner appeared like a mouth. Behind, a civilian vehicle flashed a minimalist blue light. The world began to form a chase. "I forgot to tell you," Aiden said through gritted teeth. "I love chases." "Focus on the curve," Isabella replied, laughing in pure collapse. The van squeezed between an ice truck and an old taxi with an engine that probably wasn't running anymore. The police car tried to copy the trick and lost half a bumper to a pole. The next corner brought two unmarked cars. Aiden slammed the van down a delivery ramp that smelled of fish and history. They emerged on the other side of the block like timed moles. "Hannah," Isabella called after the pendant, forgetting it was Hannah's and remembering a second later. "Do you have the necklace?" Hannah's voice responded with a breath that was worth a month of future therapy. "Yes, and the upload is over 70%. I have redundancy. Does this flash drive close the coffin? Close it, seal it with cement, and write a sonnet. Send it. Now." Aiden drove to an open parking lot and parked the van inside a leaking shipping container. A street trick you only learn by living the hard way. They walked up 2 streets and down behind the surfboard shop's studio. The door opened before the knock. The cameraman pointed to a piece of equipment with no beautiful soul and the soul of a hero, an independent transmitter. "It goes straight to the satellite, bypasses the stations they use," he said. "It's a botched job with poetry." Isabella inserted the flash drive. The software recognized it, opening like a flower. Log lines flowed with the shy grace of important things. Names, dates, routes, internal dispatches, donation receipts, decorations exchanged for silence. The entire ocean fit on one screen. "We're going down," Hannah said, scanning a second screen with the surgical calm of someone cutting through lies with a scalpel. "They're trying, but it's not fast enough. I'll be back live in 2 minutes." 2 minutes is the distance between life and death, Aiden replied, looking out the window. He saw it first. A black sedan pulled up too slowly to be casual. 4 men got out, 2 with a military posture you wouldn't learn in a mall gym. The 5th came next, with the same boardroom and safari body. Light shirt, hands in pockets, the whole town unsure whether he was about to open a hospital or a hunting party. "Whitmore." "The party came to us," Aiden said, with a peace Isabella had already learned to fear. "Lock the door," Hannah said. 1 minute and 20 to go. The first kick on the door made the woods sing. The second taught the door a lesson in hierarchy. The third would turn the latch into memory. The fourth would make the door forget it was ever a door. Aiden leaned to the side, gun raised, his breathing a metronome. Isabella stood in front, her face unobscured. She knew what the camera needed. Eyes. The country needs to see eyes. The wood gave way like a tooth. The first man entered with the haste of someone who thinks life is a room you can conquer with a boot. Aiden felled him with a single shot. The second took a step back. Having seen the future up close and being shot in the shoulder brought him back to the present. The third aimed for Isabella's chest. The world exploded in a second that always returns in dreams. The bullet came like a final punctuation. Aiden jumped. His body stepped between the shot and Isabella's fate with the ease of someone who had always been there. The impact was a muffled sound. Blood welled up in Aiden's fingers like murderous flowers. He fell to his knees, trying to laugh at his own body for being human. "No," Isabella said, and the word tore at her throat in a way she had never allowed before. She fired. The man fell. The 4th gave up. The 5th retreated. The 6th took the hallway. The cameraman wept silently. Hannah glanced at the broadcast clock and knew that nothing she had ever done in her life would be greater than that second. "Live in 5, 4, 3. Isabella held Aiden, her hands trying to staunch a river. His eyes met hers. There was a peace there that didn't fit in a war room. "I promise to fall first," he whispered, with the last bit of humor left. "Shut up. You still owe me a tango. I owe you the world. Then stay. I'll stay. If you..." He choked on air and laughter. "If you promise you to go all the way. I promise." The red light came on. Hannah lifted the microphone without ceremony, without hairdo. The country breathed in a split screen. The gala evacuated. The police confused. The anchors with their smiles already shaky. "Good evening," Hannah said, her voice not a television voice. It was a citizen's. "We're live with Isabella Monroe, a former agent accused of treason, and with overwhelming evidence linking philanthropist Grant Whitmore to an international trafficking and money laundering network. What do you have to say to the country, Isabella?" Isabella breathed with a bleeding man in her arms. The world narrowed until it became 2 eyes and a microphone. She held up the hard drive and the flash drive, one in each hand, like relics. She spoke without trembling, because courage doesn't argue with necessity. "I have names, dates, contracts, routes, and emails. I have the list of humanitarian containers that were never opened. I have the signatures of those who bought silence with parties and monuments. I have proof that the sea in this city was used to carry bodies. and that the sand was used to bury the truth. She looked straight into the black hole of the lens. My name is Isabella Monroe. I am not a traitor. I chose the law when the law chose to discard me. And today I choose the country. I ask that you arrest me on the stage of light, not in the dark room of an excuse. I ask that you protect the journalist beside me, and I ask that someone bring an ambulance, now. The building shook a syllable. From the hallway, footsteps. From below, sirens that had been delayed for their own destination. From the street, the city divided between those who rejoice and those who fear. The camera remained. There was no possible cut. Whitmore appeared in the doorway like a lawyer from hell itself. He smiled at the camera as if greeting an old friend. He took 2 steps. One hand was covered in an invisible remote control glove. The other held a small, real, black remote control with a red button. He waved the toy like a childish threat. In every room in this building, he said cordially, there's a high-frequency sound device that can interrupt unauthorized transmissions. I love technology. It's so useful when the truth refuses to reveal itself. Isabella smiled back, and it was a smile you only learn by catching and loving the wrong person. And I love redundancy. Across the city, atop an old building, a drone. The gift Aiden had set up weeks earlier out of pure survivalism was programmed to begin transmitting on Hannah's secondary channel if the red light remained on for more than 5 minutes. It was on. The drone began to sing on its own frequency. The country gained a second set of eyes. Whitmore's hand trembled imperceptibly. Behind him, the 6th man made the mistake of looking at his boss's hand and forgetting about the woman with the gun. Isabella shot him in the leg. The camera groaned hungrily. The building became a loudspeaker of reality. The ambulance finally did its job. Sirens wailed down the hallway. 2 paramedics entered the scene like actors who knew their lines. They examined Aiden's wound, spoke quickly, and opened kits. The blood was the color of anger and love combined. I'll go with you, Isabella said. You're going to jail, a voice said from behind. It was a state police officer, not a federal one. His uniform was dusty, and his eyes were childish. At least officially. Unofficially, he took off his cap for a second, as if respecting the dead who never died. Thank you. He placed handcuffs on Isabella's wrists as gently as steel could handle. The cold metal reminded her of all the night's choices. She raised her handcuffed wrist to the camera. It was an immorally powerful image. The narrative for a second knelt. Whitmore realized he was losing, and only men with great power know how to lose by improvising. He took 2 steps back, disappeared from the scene, and left behind the dust of emergency strategies. It didn't matter. The country had too many eyes now. And eyes, once they learn, never unlearn. Aiden on the stretcher squeezed Isabella's hand with a strength she would recognize in the dark. Go, he whispered. Stay alive, he ordered. Only if you stay. I'll stay, I promise. His smile was the most beautiful and the saddest. We still owe you a tango. She laughed, and the tear fell of its own accord. 2. They took Aiden as if he were the heart of a rare animal. Isabella followed, accompanied by 2 police officers who looked as if they had chosen the good part of the story. Hannah turned off one channel and turned on 10. The cameraman cleaned a lens and cried half the tears he had saved. The country was, for a second, in a silence that shrouds revolutions. On the street, the sea breeze reached Isabella, touched her face with the invisible hand that once invented Australian beaches, and blew 3 words she'd made up, but which the wind swore it had said, go all the way. The ambulance doors closed. Inside, the monitor beeped its hospital music. The paramedic called out numbers. The other attached a line. Aiden blinked as if coming back from a deeper dive. You know what's funny? He asked, almost voiceless. There's nothing funny about it, Isabella said, laughing at the absurdity. It's just that, he breathed as if negotiating with his own body. For the first time, I think I can be something else. If we get out of this, we're going out. Promise. One more thing? All. If I fall, he said, and she felt the world get too small. Don't let them steal the story. No one will steal it. Isabella squeezed his hand. The story is ours. And the seas. The ambulance turned the corner and was swallowed by the city. Whitmore, somewhere high above, was orchestrating his counteroffensive with the haste of someone bleeding inside and refusing to admit it. Phone calls flew like night birds. Promises were broken and replaced with threats. Judges were given synchronized dinners, and generals were reminded that uniforms are also made of fabric. But something had changed on the coast. Maybe it was the fact that a handcuffed former agent had asked to be arrested under the spotlight. Maybe it was a cartel confessing love the very second it learned to fall for another. Maybe it was just the country seeing for 5 continuous minutes the unvarnished truth. Isabella looked out the ambulance window, saw reflections of the sea in shop windows, and understood that this place, beautiful, rich, fun, sometimes cruel, had a heart too salty to belong to just one man. She closed her eyes for a second. She thought about the tango and smiled, because it was impossible not to love someone who promised to dance even when they were bleeding. When he opened his eyes, the ambulance screeched to a halt. The hospital loomed ahead like a white ship. Paramedics opened the doors. Voices, lights. The hallway swallowed everything. And before Isabella walked through the last door, someone tapped her on the shoulder. A state trooper. The same look as children. "Miss Monroe," he said quietly, "the order is to take you to a room without press." But he fumbled with the handcuffs. The metal gave. "I'd rather break a rule than break history." He put the handcuffs back on, loose his party bracelets, and winked. Then loudly to the late-arriving cameras, "The detainee will be handled according to protocol." Isabella nodded. The sea within her bowed. Aiden's stretcher turned left. She went with him. Whitmore above pressed buttons and sent horses, but the town had already chosen its music. Retaliation would still come. The price would still come. The scene where the villain tries to rewrite the truth with the most expensive pen would still come. Above all, the sacrifice that would imprint a name on the sand of Australia, that the waves would not erase at the first tide. And that night, with blood on her glove, salt on her skin, and light in her eyes, Isabella knew that if forbidden love is a weapon, she is also the only one who knows how to shoot it to wound destiny. The hospital looked like a white ship stranded in downtown Sydney, full of windows that breathed the scent of the sea. In the surgical ward, Aiden was swallowed by automatic doors and merciless lights. Isabella, handcuffed in the face, walked beside the gurney as far as they would allow. His hand sought hers for a second that was worth all the codes in the world. "Tango," he whispered, mindful of his own promise. "Two," she answered firmly. The door closed. Isabella stood outside with 2 state troopers exchanging glances like someone carrying a story in their pocket. The hallway had its own sound. Monitors, footsteps, breathing. She leaned her forehead against the warm wall and breathed. She remembered the beach, the helipad, the lights from the gala. She remembered the camera. She remembered who still needed to reach the other side of the bridge alive. Hannah. The elevator opened and Hannah stepped out with the microphone hanging around her neck, and an expression that said she wouldn't negotiate with fear, only with time. "I went up through the service entrance," she said, hugging Isabella quickly. "The country is going crazy. The governor called for an immediate investigation. 3 ministers changed their tune, and half the press is swearing they've been defending you from the start. I brought lawyers. And one question, will Whitmore let this go unpunished? He doesn't know how to lose." Isabella looked at the end of the corridor, where steel doors promised sanctity. And those who don't know how to lose, when they lose, try to set the board on fire. As if the world obeyed the text, the building shook a syllable. The first alarm wasn't from the monitors. It was from the internal security radio. Perimeter lockdown. Unidentified group attempting to enter via the ambulance ramp. The police officer with the childish look put his hand on his holster. "He's come for what's left of the narrative," Hannah murmured. "That is you. That is him." Isabella straightened her shoulders. "This is our home now. And I don't lose at home." The sergeant pulled up the intercom. "Code Orange. Lockdown emergencies. Reroute ambulances. Isolate C-Wing." He looked at Isabella and Hannah. "You two, behind me." "No," Isabella said. "Behind me. You protect the doctors. I'll hold the door." The sergeant smirked. "I'll put this in the report and be called irresponsible. Let's go." The ambulance ramp bustled with the roar of engines and the click of boots. 2 black sedans, a van with dark tint, and 4 men with meticulously trained postures, as if gravity were a different animal for them. They weren't police officers, they weren't guards. They were mercenaries paid with philanthropic receipts. "Hannah," Isabella said without taking her eyes off the scene, "stay with the sergeant. Call whatever you need to call. If I fall today, the story won't fall on me. You won't fall," Hannah replied, and her voice was a bridge. The men advanced. Isabella raised her handcuffed hands for the security camera to see, and then, in a gesture so quick it seemed like a magic trick, She twisted her wrist and released the loose clasp the sergeant had deliberately left open. The handcuffs fell, the sound of metal on the floor echoing like a toast. The first attack was with a baton. Isabella blocked with her forearm and returned with an elbow to the temple. The second came with a knife. She pinned his wrist against the wall, twisted and felt the dry crack of bone giving up. The third attempted a holding shot. The sergeant responded with 2 calculated steps and a precise shot that made the man rethink his career. "Back off," someone shouted from inside the van. The retreat was only to make room. A silver cylinder grenade rolled across the cement like a soda can. Isabella grabbed Hannah by her coat and threw them both behind a pillar. The explosion wasn't fire, it was sound. A scream of frequency. For a second, everything went silent. A loud silence that tore at the nerves from the inside out. Isabella forced her body to remember what the body does when sound gives up. She breathed in count, stepped firmly, stood up. The world slowly returned, coughing up light. She saw the silhouette that shouldn't have been there, a tall man, a light-colored shirt, the expression of someone who holds all the keys. Whitmore. He didn't come to kill, he came to steal. "Mrs. Monroe," he said welcomingly, "the country wants answers. I will bring them, personally." 2 of his men stepped forward and, in a perfectly rehearsed move, neutralized the sergeant. The third held Hannah down, one hand over her mouth, the other on the microphone, interrupting her breathless delivery. Whitmore surveyed the scene like a satisfied conductor. "I started the show," he said. "I'll finish it. You forgot that the sea belongs to the public," Isabella replied, placing herself between him and the doors. "The sea belongs to whoever bought the marinas." He smiled. "And I bought it. You can buy docks, Grant. The rest drowns you." He inclined his head slightly. "What a shame you chose poetry. The world is prose with stamps." The fourth man emerged from the van with something that didn't belong in a hospital, a covered transport cart, with the false urgency of official-looking things. They cleared a space on the ramp. Whitmore made a small gesture. The man pushed the cart toward the emergency door. "What do you have there?" Isabella asked, stepping forward. "Your future," Whitmore said. "And his." She understood half a second too late. The cart was for Aiden. The surgery would be over in minutes. The controlled transport would be a ride to death. Isabella made the decision that turns people into characters. She went alone against 4. The first fell with a kick to the knee. The second grabbed his arm. She used his own body as leverage, glued him to the cart, and with a twist, made him knock over the cover. There was no air conditioning or blankets. There was a black box with electronic locks, a transport safe. "Explosive?" Hannah whispered, her eyes wide. "No," Isabella replied quickly. "Worse. Portable prison." Whitmore didn't lose his smile. "I won't kill Mr. Cruz. I'll export him. Discreetly. To a place where he'll never bother you again. Death is public. Disappearance is hygienic. You're not taking anyone." Isabella lunged. The third man held her sideways. The sergeant launched a tackle that resembled a football and broke the fourth man's nose. Hannah sank her teeth into the hand that silenced her and gasped for breath. And then the hospital woke up to itself. 6 in-house security guards came running. 2 paramedics held up stretchers as shields. And a grim-faced doctor glared at Whitmore like someone staring at a loose dog in an ICU. "This is the soil of life," she said, and each syllable had age. The ramp became a square. Whitmore, for a second, recognized the danger of places where the community remembers its community. He made a tiny gesture. The men formed a half-moon, stopped, and retreated toward the van. He glanced at Isabella for a final moment. "See you at sea," he said lightly, like someone who has a tennis match at 6. The van pulled away. The sedans followed. The silence, by a brief miracle, didn't feel like fear. It felt like resolve. Isabella ran back to the surgical wing. The sergeant, sweating faith and adrenaline, followed. Hannah was already calling 3 people at once: a judge, a producer, a lawyer. When the door opened, the doctor removed his mask and faced Isabella with dry sobriety. "He's alive. The bullet went through muscle, not an artery. He lost blood, but he's recoverable, but..." The doctor looked around as if choosing relatives among strangers. "There will be people trying to get him out of here. They won't." Isabella pressed her chest against her chest for a second, learning to breathe again. "Doctor, can I ask for some controlled imprudence?" "In what sense?" "In 15 minutes, Whitmore returns with paperwork, a fake protocol, and a bought-out judge. I need you to help me transfer Aiden." He made air quotes. "Not to where they think, to the coast." The doctor blinked twice. One time he remembered his own fisherman father. The other, he thought of how many times he'd shaken the hands of honest people who'd been crushed by borrowed uniforms. 15 minutes, he said, and a sin for every saint. Let's go. The hospital escape logistics were choreographed like a small miracle. 2 stretchers, one empty for distraction, a real ambulance and one that looked real, 2 clipboards with names that existed for protocols and died for life, 3 paramedics who would accept any dismissal with their heads held high. Aiden exited through service door A, not C. The real ambulance drove into the front parking lot as if it were the day's trophy. The fake one turned the corner and disappeared into the ancient streets as if it had been born there. The coastline was dawning with a relentless golden glow. The ambulance stopped at a marina service entrance, where the sergeant, Hannah, and an old fisherman named Cale, a friend of the doctor, a friend of the sea, waited quietly. Cale smelled of eternal salt and the patience of things that endure because they don't expect anything. The boat is low. It doesn't attract attention, he said. The sea is smooth today, but it changes easily. You'll set out in silence. You'll pass behind the yachts. You'll turn at the Pelican Point and you'll disappear behind the small island whose name no one remembers. We're going straight to the cove where it all started, Isabella said. The house on the cliff has an annex that overlooks the water. I know the cameras. We'll hide there until the country fully wakes up. Hannah, you broadcast from here. The sergeant holds the coast. Cale takes care of the sea. I'll take care of the rest. The man, Cale corrected, jerking his chin toward Aiden, who was breathing better, his skin less like paper, and the rest. They set off. Cale's boat barely cut through the water. It glided over it as if asking permission. Isabella held Aiden's hand, her portable monitor dialing numbers that no longer frightened her. Hannah on the dock read the invisible teleprompter of her heart. Don't kill us on the bend. Let them come. Halfway across, the tide rose in mood and threw a tongue of wind. The boat tilted, raced, laughed. Aiden opened his eyes and for a second forgot the pain. I always wanted a honeymoon like that, he joked. Runaway moon, you idiot, Isabella replied, and the laughter came with tears that the wind dried. The house on the cliff welcomed the tide like a painting welcomes brushstrokes. The low annex had a door that only opened from the inside. The code was 3 short knocks and 2 long knocks on a piece of wood no one would buy in a store. Isabella entered, turned on the silent generator, enabled the signal jammer, set up 2 internal cameras, and connected the backup drive. Aiden lay on a makeshift bed, breathing easier, staring at the ceiling as if remembering where he'd placed a piece of his soul. Stay here, she said. I'll go to the edge of the cliff. If Whitmore is a promising man, he'll come. Isabella, I'll be back. And I'll be back owing you a tango. He tried to hold her arm. She pressed her mouth to his hand. Trust. For the first time in your life, trust. He climbed the narrow stairs of the annex until he sprawled out on the deck overlooking the raging sea. The sky was covered in soft clouds and a hard line on the horizon. The wind carried the sound of an engine, deep, expensive, familiar. The hull that appeared wasn't Cale's. It was a glass and carbon shark with a goddess's name on the stern. At the bow, Whitmore, his shirt now dark, his glasses feigning a desire to see. He docked without asking. The invisible beach below the deck barely touched the hulls. The man who bought the sea climbed the stairs of another man's house with the courage of people who always win because they never had to lose properly. I told you we'd see you at sea, he said, as if fulfilling something. I've come to get what's mine. Are you coming to get the country? Isabella rested her hands on the railing and looked down, without looking away. He doesn't want you. The country wants someone who pays the year-end bills. He smiled. And I do. Behind him, 2 men with handguns and the faces of those receiving Easter bonuses. Isabella didn't come down. She wanted the scene to be high up. Height gives truth an echo that the ground doesn't. You can kill some more, she said. You can knock me down right here. Push me. Say I slipped. It was the wind. You can kidnap Aiden. You can think you've won another round. She rested her chin on her shoulder as if assessing the horizon. And even then, you won't be left in history. The country saw it. The tests are in 10 different offices. 3 judges asked for copies. The governor didn't sleep. Your face no longer fits on the bronze plaques. You believe in audiences, Isabella. He climbed 2 more steps calmly. I believe in backstage. And backstage, people accept flowers and forget blood. That's what they do. I'm from the backstage. She smiled slightly. I hunt behind the scenes. And do you know the difference between us? You think the sea is your thing. I've learned to ask permission. The first man advanced. Isabella pulled the railing bolt, a silly trick that turned into an elegant trap, and the step gave way. The man lost his balance, meeting Isabella's knee before the ground. The second took aim. Isabella used the first man's body as a shield for a second. The bullet hit the wrong muscle. She lost her balance, lay down, and fired. The second man fell. Whitmore took a step back, for the first time in forever. "Get down," Isabella said, pointing the gun at his flawless chest. "Let go of control. Let go of arrogance. Let go." He didn't let go. Men like him don't let go of anything. Things fall away from them by gravity. "You have a weakness for romance, Monroe," he said, as if whispering a prescription. "That condemns you. And you have a weakness for thinking the world is yours. It drowns you. Where's Cruz?" He glanced over her shoulder, trying to see the annex. "Bring him. We'll settle this by looking at the patient. He lives, and he will live to watch you fall." Whitmore gave a half smile, turned on the radio in his pocket, and spoke softly in a language that wasn't his, and there was no music. "Delta plan." 2 jet skis emerged from the sea like hurried commas. A third, smaller hull rounded the corner of the rock. Isabella understood the plan. Surround the cliff from below, create noise, force the house to open a door, pull Aiden out like a fish from a net. The sea turned a shade darker. The wind, a line. "Last offer," Whitmore said, opening his arms as if offering Christ himself. "You give me the man. I'll leave your life for the news to build. You become a symbol, write a book, get a lecture. I'll vanish him. The country goes back to sleep." "I don't negotiate, people." Isabella stepped down a step. "I negotiate with the sea, and with it, I've already made a deal." She didn't shoot to kill. She fired at the glass balustrade, 2 panels above Whitmore's hull. The impact shattered the transparent sheet, which was supporting more weight than it should have. The glass shattered into a curtain. The jet skis hesitated. Whitmore's hull lurched. One of the men in the stern lost his balance and fell into the water. Gun and ego dissolved together for an instant. Whitmore took advantage of the chaos to draw his own gun, a small, expensive weapon, saved for uncuffed moments. Isabella saw the glint of the barrel a second before. She fired. He fired. They both missed by a hair. Then the annex door opened. Aiden, pale, stubborn as things that refused to die, appeared, one hand pressing down on the bandage, and the other carrying the ceramic case. "Is this yours?" he asked Whitmore, showing off the cold storage as if displaying a dragon's heart. "Thanks for taking care of it," Whitmore replied, his composure returning to his face. "Bring it here." Isabella turned her face to Aiden with the fury of love that brooks no heroism. "Come back, Aiden. If he wants me," Aiden said, each word chosen with the calm of someone who knows that life is both short and long. "He's going to have to expose himself to get me." He descended 2 steps. The blood on his fingers drew a silly red flower. The wind shifted. The sea churned. The wave crashed against the rock with a childhood laugh. Whitmore descended a step 2, aiming low, calculating high. "Drop the gun," Aiden said. "I'll drop the briefcase." "Go first," Whitmore replied. Isabella made the move that both saves and condemns. In a theatrical gesture that would later be repeated at podcasts and dinner parties, she took the case from Aiden's hands, opened the latch with his thumb, and held the drive up to the wind. "Grant," she said, the name coming like a sentence. "This is the last piece. What keeps you standing? The signature. I can break it, or I can make it infinite." She showed the radio attached to her belt. "If I press here, it goes up to servers you can't reach with all the checks in the world." She opened her other hand, revealing a tiny magnetic charge, a sister to the one that had opened the bunker. "If I touch here, it turns to dust." Whitmore paused. His face made the rare effort to reassess. His eyes measured the wind, the height, the woman, the man, the sea, and concluded that something had to give. He didn't know what. The kind of equation men like him hate because they don't control the main variable. People. "What do you want?" he finally asked, biting off the word. "Public justice," Isabella replied. "You get down, put your hands on your head, and surrender to the patrol that's arriving at the bottom." She pointed to a speedboat that was indeed approaching, with a camera on. "Not in a room, not in a hallway, not in a garage. On the rock, with the sea watching you. And I'll hold the file intact for the court. What if I don't come down? I'll break it." She lifted the load. And before it breaks, I'll send it. Live. Now. The radio crackled on her belt. Hannah's voice, thick and steel. I'm on the air. I can have it in 15 seconds. Tell me when. The sea sometimes chooses for people. A larger wave crashed into Whitmore's hull with authority. He staggered half a step. Aiden took one forward instinctively. The man behind Whitmore aimed at Aiden. Isabella didn't think. She fired. The man fell. Whitmore saw the world in dive mode. The sound of gunfire, glass, water, wind, a woman with a briefcase worth her life, and a man worth her fall. I'll come down, he said finally, as if swallowing pieces of himself. But you die tomorrow. Today is not tomorrow. Isabella pointed to the floor. Hands on your head. He obeyed. He descended the steps slowly, as if unlearning his own choreography. The patrol boat was now a clear image, a small siren in the air. The camera on a state trooper's vest entered the invisible frame. Hannah's radio vibrated. The country watched a man who had always climbed without a rug descend for the first time. He knelt on the wet stone. The water lapped at a millionaire's knee. In the name of the state, said the policeman with dust and children, you are under arrest. Whitmore didn't look at the camera. He looked out to sea, perhaps hoping that at the last moment, he would remember who paid for the marinas. The sea doesn't remember. The sea keeps. Isabella exhaled for a moment. She placed her briefcase on the deck, sent the file with a press of a button, which, on Hannah's side, turned into rain on hungry servers. The upload complete lights were invisible fireworks. The wind applauded. She turned to Aiden. He was still standing out of stubbornness and will. The cut was bleeding less. His face was burning more. Is it over? He asked without irony. It starts now, she replied, and it was the most honest answer ever. The courtroom doesn't smell like the sea, but it did that morning. Maybe because half the town brought sand in their shoes. Maybe because Hannah walked in with a seashell in her pocket out of superstition. Maybe because Isabella still smelled of salt when she took the microphone, not as a defendant, but as a protected witness. Maybe because Aiden, in a wheelchair and with a discreet IV, walked in handcuffed by choice, not necessity, and when the handcuffs pricked his skin, the country understood the price. The judge read the articles like someone reciting a meteorological report. Money laundering, active corruption, international conspiracy, misuse of humanitarian channels. The defense attempted maneuvers with the elegance of shipwrecks. Every piece of the puzzle was laid out on the table. The submerged bunker, the routes, the emails, the letters, Whitmore's flash drive, the images from the museum, the gala, the hospital, the cliff recording which could have been a movie, but he chose justice. Mr. Cruz, the judge said, looking at Aiden as if he were looking at a boarder. Due to essential cooperation and proven personal risk, this court considers a plea bargain, full confession, delivery of routes, names, and destruction of financial structure. A reduced but real sentence. Do you accept? The room held its breath. Aiden looked at Isabella. She didn't raise an eyebrow, didn't make a face of I do or I don't. She gave him the one thing they'd always denied him. Choice. I accept, Aiden said, and the word fell heavily like an anchor that finally stops a ship. Ms. Monroe, the judge turned to her. The special prosecutor's office is requesting your reinstatement of credentials and, paradoxically, your voluntary suspension for 6 months. The country wants you as a symbol. The law wants you as a servant. What do you want? Isabella took a breath. She remembered the helicopter, the beach, the ramp, the bullet, the promised tango. I don't want anyone to steal the story, he said. I accept technical restitution and voluntary suspension. I need to relearn how to live without disguises. He looked at Aiden and save a dance. The judge, for the first time that day, almost smiled. It's noted. Hannah walked out onto the steps with the microphone and the city in turmoil. She said little. She let the images do the rest. When asked if it was soap opera love, she replied, it's a human choice. And the country, for one afternoon, wanted to be human. The following months were free of shootings. They had time. Isabella returned to the beach with the sunshine of the simple. She learned to wake up without a radio, to run without looking over her shoulder, to cook fish with both hands and her whole heart. The sergeant sent messages with photos of his children and the sea. Hannah called less than she wanted, and more than she could. Cale would show up with stories of wind, leave 3 fish and leave with 4. Aiden, behind walls that reeked of bureaucracy, helped bring down 12 routes, 70 accounts, and 5 social impact funds that were tunnels. He wrote names in a folder that didn't have a pretty cover. He trained prosecutors to understand spreadsheets that were maps. He bled sometimes inside, sometimes outside. He didn't complain. He discovered, to his astonishment, that silence without gunshots has music. Isabella visited him in a courtyard where the sky seemed larger. Thanks to the architect's strategy, there was a mark on the ground that, in another life, would have been a dance floor. They stood side by side. They didn't need to touch to promise. "How's the sea?" he asked. "Waiting for you," she replied. "And the tango?" "Saved. 2. On the first day, the sentence allowed supervised release for the final hearing, formalities that tie up loose ends. The sun appeared as the main guest. The city breathed differently, as if an old muscle had finally relaxed. Hannah awaited them with a look that could tell the whole story. The sergeant, off duty, carried a bag with some food only he knew how to prepare. Kyle brought a piece of netting, out of superstition. "Are you guys going to dance?" Hannah asked with sweet mischief. "He still has a monitor," Isabella said. "Prefect doesn't get in the way," Aiden replied, offering his hand with his usual charming disgrace. On the wooden deck overlooking the blue sky they both stood. The wind carried a sound that could have been music or the sea. It would have been either way. Their steps were small, close to the ground, as befits someone who has learned to fall without breaking. His body still held the memory of the bullet, hers, the memory of the cliff, and between one memory and the next, there was space for something that didn't demand absolution. To continue, Isabella rested her forehead against his chin. "You know what I learned? That the sea is jealous of us," he tried. "That the sea teaches the measure of danger and the measure of love. And what is it? The size of a lifetime." Hannah took a picture. Just one. The sergeant applauded with the discretion of men who've seen enough to know when to make a fuss. Cale looked at the wind and said it would rain that night, but that during the day the sun would stay there, firm as a promise well made. Aiden stopped the imaginary music for a second, pulled Isabella close and whispered in her ear, with the old boldness that now seemed renewed, not recycled. "I still send flowers to those I love. I didn't receive it. You received sand, good tides, and a country that woke up for 5 minutes. It's better than a flower that dies in the water." She laughed, and when the laughter died down, they were left staring at the horizon. Dolphins breached the surface with the lack of ceremony of the sea's rightful owners. Children ran with buckets that never fill, because childhood is a form of the sea. The city, in the background, struggled to find its balance between money and decency. The world, for a brief, powerful moment, made sense. "Is the case closed?" Aiden asked, already knowing the answer. "Cases don't close," Isabella replied. "We learn to live with them by our side, like with the sea, like with the sea." The sun hit at an angle that painted them both golden. A pelican perched on a stake like a living statue. Someone on the beach whistled a melody reminiscent of Buenos Aires. Isabella and Aiden moved together. A slow turn, a pause in an embrace that needed no explanation. The city, that entity full of sin and beauty, kept turning. The sea, that judge who delivers no sentence, only time, kept breaking in small, patient, eternal waves. And when the wind changed, bringing the scent of promised rain, Aiden remembered what he had said in the hospital. "I can be something else." Isabella nodded. "You already are." He looked at the line where the sky kisses the sea. "Then let us be. Together? At the right tide, yes. And when there's a hangover, we'll dance in the kitchen." Remove, too. The world laughed with them. A laugh of foam and light. If someone were to ask years later where the story ended, many would say, in court. Others, on the cliff. Some, at the gala. No one would be right. It ended and began again, in that small dance, on a wooden deck that had no name, with the entire Australian coastline reminding us that beauty doesn't serve to hide crime. It serves to teach us how to live. The sea kept the rest, as always.